In this video, I'm going to share with you how I start the school year and essentially 2 classroom mantras that I begin sharing with my students on day 1. So on day 1, I believe in creating a low risk and high trusted environment immediately with my students. And it takes a lot. It's a lot of work, but I feel like over the past few years, this is typically what my first and second day look like. I've made some tweaks along the way, but I have found it very beneficial to get to know my students as quickly as possible, learn their names, and make them feel as welcome as possible. A little bit of background, I teach secondary mathematics, a mixture of middle school and high school. And on day 1, we typically have 90-minute block periods. So what I'm sharing with you might not be scalable or transferable depending on if you took it minute by minute, item by item. But there are bits and pieces that I believe you might find helpful and useful. So of course, make adaptations and take what you like and experiment. And if you've already started the school year, it's never too late to try some of these with your students. So every day, not just the first day, I greet my students at the door, welcoming them. Now, it's really important to me that on that first day, I make contact with them. I find out what their name is, how you say their name, and what they want to be called by. As they enter my room, they will see that I have my desks labeled, and I will have a seating chart up on the screen waiting for them. Now, before I go any further, I want to share this book with you. It's called How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. It's been around for years, and even on my copy, it says 80 years in print. I highly recommend this book to you, and I'm going to share my favorite quote from this book with you in a second. But some of these chapters are really helpful in terms of like an easy way to become a good conversationalist. If you're wrong, admit it. How to spur people on to success. Our job working with students requires us to motivate them and help them believe in themselves. And this book has been really influential, and I highly recommend it. So let me share my favorite quote with you from Dale Carnegie. So Dale Carnegie says, "A person's name is to that person the sweetest and most important sound in any language." So I take the time while I'm greeting each student at the door to write down phonetically how to say their name and just make sure, okay, what do you go by? So for example, if it's Brianna or Brianna, and does that student go by Bree or something else? Now, some of you might be thinking, wait a minute, if you're greeting each student at the door and they're supposed to come in and find their seat, how do you go about doing that? Because that just sounds like crazy, right? Because it does take a little bit of time greeting 30 to 40 students at the beginning of class. So I need to have them doing something immediately when they get into the class. So what I do is I grab the first 2 students, I ask them to drop their stuff off at their assigned seat, and then I give them a printout of my classroom seating chart. And I help train them really quickly to look up on the top of my ceiling where there's cards, and that tells them the table number and the group number. And then what those 2 students do as they greet students coming in after I have greeted them, then they will help them find their seat. So here's my seating chart. I'll put the names in there ahead of the first day. And this way, I just use this classroom seating chart to get things started. I tell students it's not permanent, but it's just to help us get started the first couple of weeks of school. Okay, so what are students doing once they find their seat? Well, on the TV or the projector, I project 2 puzzles. And then at the desks, there are materials for them to use to help them try and solve those puzzles. The materials are like toothpicks or wooden sticks and some counters, foam counters. And then here are the 2 puzzles that I have up on the TV screen. And I tell kids as they come in, like, try one of the puzzles, work with your table, work with your elbow partner, work with your table mates to help each other try and figure out these 2 puzzles. So one is where there's 2 4 sticks that take on the shape of a cup, and they have to move only 2. And when they move those 2, they'll reform exact shape of the cup, but the coin will be outside the cup instead of inside the cup like it is right now. Another puzzle that I have is where they take 18 sticks and they place them like the digits on a digital clock. So they get a math statement that says 7 minus 0 equals 6. We know that's false. And then again, they can only move 2 of those 18 sticks to a new location where they would now make a true equation. Okay, so I've greeted all 30 to 40 of my students, and they're all in their seats and they're working on these puzzles. And notice these puzzles are challenging. These are not puzzles designed for someone to solve in about a minute or 2. They take a little bit of thinking and experimenting, because now what it does is it allows me to walk around the room with my seating chart, and it allows me to make sure every student is in the right location. It gives me another chance to practice their name. And they also want to ask clarifying questions because they're coming up with creative ideas that might not necessarily be accurate in solving the puzzles, but they want to know if what they're doing would work. I love having 2 puzzles up because chances are good students will figure out one of them. In my experience, the one with the cup is often solved before the 7 minus 0 equals 6 one. So as I'm walking around, I tell students if they think they've solved it, raise their hand, I'll come on over and check it out and have them recreate it for me. Oftentimes, students solve the one with the cup first. And if they're correct, I'll give them a very subtle thumbs up. And then I will say, never tell an answer, which means I'm not going to share their solution with the class right now. And Don't let any other group see the solution. Keep it to yourself. What I do is I later explain the importance of this because I stole this from Fawn Win. So this is mantra number 1 of 2. I stole this mantra from Fawn Win, another math teacher. And I tell students that it's important they not tell other students the answer, because what they're doing is they're robbing those students of the opportunity to figure it out themselves. So after students have been working on this puzzle for about 5 to 10 minutes, I say, we're going to pause this and we're going to come back to it. It's okay if we don't know the answer to these puzzles right now. I introduce myself a little bit more to the students, and I say to the students, I would like you to do a small little icebreaker with the people at your table just to get to know each other's names better and a fun fact about them. I tell them I'm conducting an experiment when this happens, but I'm not going to tell them what the experiment is until the end. So I model it for them. I say, hey, my name is Mr. Stadel, and my favorite snack is chips and salsa. And I said, okay, now go around your table and introduce yourself and share your favorite snack. So after the conversations start to die down, I share with the students the experiment that I'm conducting. I'm curious who is being an active listener. And what I mean by that is there anybody brave and confident enough to be able to go around their table and say everybody's name and their favorite snack? And chances are pretty good I have 1 or 2 brave people that were actively listening. And if we don't, I give them a second chance. And I say, no worries. I never told you to practice your active listening, but that's a skill we're going to need throughout the school year. And so let's do it again. Quickly go around your table and introduce yourself and share your favorite snack again. And I guarantee we'll have more people that are actively listening and will be brave and confident enough to share with us. So I'm realizing this video is really long, and to move into my second classroom mantra would make the video even longer. So I'm going to stop it right here, and we'll do a part 2 in a second video. I believe it's so important that we start the school year with a low risk and a high trust environment. And I hope that you find the value in the classroom mantra that I stole from Fawn Win to never tell an answer, especially if you're a secondary teacher. But most importantly, it tells students we value their thinking and not necessarily the answer. And we want to give students the opportunity and feel welcome and safe to keep persevering, especially through tough math problems. And lastly, knowing your students' names, how to pronounce them, and what they want to be called by is so important. And I highly recommend, again, that you check out Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. I'll link it down below. Take care.